Welcome, everybody, to the NFL Show on the Gruely Truth Sports Network. I'm your host for the NFL Show, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I'd like to welcome in one of my co-hosts, Sam Teets. How you doing, Sam?
I'm doing great, Mike. How are you?
I am doing great. Anthony Cervino is currently tied up at, well, he's not tied up because that'd be freaky, but he is currently at a doctor's office visit, just taking longer than expected. We all know how that is. And excuse me if you heard me sneeze. Yesterday we talked about how the Kansas City Chiefs were built. Today we're going to talk a little bit about yesterday we talked about the Niners and how they were built. Today we're going to talk about the Chiefs. We're also going to hit some NFL news. And we're going to start off with Cleveland, who, of course, it looks like the Super Bowl is destined to be in Cleveland next year because they have now agreed to terms with Bengals quarterback coach Alex Van Pelt, who will now be their offensive coordinator. Yeah. I would say this. If I want to win, probably the best way to do it is to go get the Cincinnati Bengals quarterbacks coach and bring him in to be my offensive coordinator, Sam.
Yeah, I mean, how could you not win games if you promote the quarterback coach from Cincinnati, move him up to offensive coordinator? I mean, this is just like, I don't know what you're really doing here because we haven't seen a lot of success from the Bengals. And you're talking about Freddie Kitchens, who was running the offense 2 years ago, head coach last year. You've had issues with your staff in the past in terms of who you hire and who you decide to promote. And so I don't know why you want to go out and promote this decision to go out and hire Van Pelt because I don't know exactly what you expect from him. I don't know. I mean, you're looking for someone who can maximize Baker Mayfield, and turn back the clock and make him look more like what he did his rookie year. You want someone to promote him, move him forward. I just don't see how Van Pelt's going to do that, considering his track record.
Well, how about this? It also says that even though he's the offensive coordinator, it's unclear if Van Pelt will call plays in Cleveland because Stefanski may do that himself. And that's always a good thing to do in your first job as a head coach is to also call the offense.
It works out all the time.
Yeah,
it works
sarcasm.
out all the time.
Yeah. I mean, even Andy Reid got him a defensive coordinator or offensive coordinator. Let's see. Jamal Adams expects to sign an extension in the offseason with the New York Jets.
Yeah, that's the right move for New York because they're stuck in the middle ground right now between a rebuild and between being a real team that can actually go out and win games because they really haven't made a decision about what they're doing. I think if you sign Jamal Adams and you're committed to the future to actually trying to build this franchise up. And you also have Sam Darnold right now, so I think that makes sense that you want to try to build this team moving forward. They're coming off of a 7-9 season, which is probably better than what people expected from the Jets. But in reality, if you have Adam Gase as your head coach, I just don't see New York going anywhere, even if they re-sign Jamal Adams and continue to develop Sam Darnold.
Why couldn't he go somewhere? They finished the season strong, and the AFC East is not overly tough.
That's true. I just don't, like I said, I don't trust the coaching right now. And I think that it's just a situation where you have a couple guys who I believe in. I believe in Jamal Adams. I believe in Sam Darnold. I think those guys are quality players, but I just don't know about supporting cast, especially the offensive line. The offensive line needs a lot of help. I think they have 3 guys on that line who are set to be free agents this summer. And the defensive line, you traded away Leonard Williams last year. You do have Quentin Williams, who hopefully will play a full season this coming year. But I just don't see those base units for that team that you build everything on. I just don't see them developing right now.
Well, and I still don't think Adam Gase is the biggest problem. I think it's the guy who owns the team.
But yeah, it doesn't help either. That makes the situation a lot worse because as long as he backs Adam Gase, you're not going to get rid of him. So, and even if they did get rid of Adam Gase, they're just going to hire someone else who doesn't know what they're doing. So,
well, how about this though? Bill O'Brien, I think we all don't think that great. He's in the playoffs every year. Adam Gase has actually coached the Dolphins to the playoffs when he had Tannehill. I agree if you're wanting to win a Super Bowl, I think Adam Gase may not be the way to go. But we talked about Bill O'Brien, and I thought it was impressive as badly as he screwed that 24-0 lead up in the playoffs that now they've even let him be the GM.
Yeah, they're adding GM to his title, which is, I mean, I just don't. We've talked about this. We joked about this, like who's there to fire him, because the owner of the Texans passed away a little while ago. So I'm not sure exactly who's running the team right now. I'm not sure if the leadership or the ownership group is that strong. So they've got Bill O'Brien. That they add GM to his title, and now you've basically given him full control of the organization that he's done well with, but hasn't taken beyond the primary steps of making the playoffs. He hasn't been able to take them to that next level yet. And we saw a perfect example of him not being able to manage the clock or manage the game during the playoffs.
Yeah. And we'll go ahead and transition because I don't really care about Bill O'Brien either way, and I don't think anybody else does either. But we're going to look at the Kansas City Chiefs and how their team was built. And the thing that stands out to me when we look at both of these teams, we looked at the 49ers yesterday, we looked at the Chiefs today, and I think this is what makes both of these guys good coaches, even though I give them both a lot of grief because of, Shanahan and the Super Bowl calling the plays and Andy Reid not being able to get there. But the thing that stands out to me is these are guys that have a system, and they go out and they get the players to fit their system instead of like a lot of coaches, like, I'm not going to say any names, but there's a lot of them that got recently fired that will try to take the pieces that are there and fit it into what they want to do. And the thing that really stands out to me here with Andy Reid is they had Alex Smith. And Alex Smith from 2013 to 2016 led the Chiefs to their best run since the early 90s. They had 3 playoff appearances, a division title in 2016, and 43 regular season wins. However, the Chiefs weren't satisfied. And a lot of people questioned when they got Patrick Mahomes and replaced Alex Smith with Mahomes, but it seems like it might have been a pretty good idea right now.
Yeah, considering what's happened with Alex Smith now, he's not even in the league at the moment because he's dealing with an injury. But Patrick Mahomes comes out, and that's a move that you're right, everyone did question that. We're like, well, are they really ready to replace Alex Smith? Because at the time, his final season as a Kansas City starter, he was only 33 years old. And we see guys nowadays who play to 37 or 38. So he had more years left in his prime, arguably. But they go out, they get Patrick Mahomes. They wait a year, which is something that you rarely see nowadays. A lot of times people are rushing to put these rookie quarterbacks in games now and not give him time to develop. They waited a year. They let him start, I think, the final week of the season as a rookie, so week 17. But they waited. They let him mature. They let him play out. And he comes out and just takes over the league in 2018. 50 touchdowns, over 5,000 passing yards. And they paired him up with a lot of players looking for the speed guys now. They added guys they had Tyreek Hill before Mahomes became the starter. So they added someone like McCole Hardman to this year in the draft. So they added those speed players and developing, we've mentioned this before, like a video
Watkins,
game level
who
offense.
They added 2 years ago.
Yeah, Sammy Watkins, they added in free agency. So they add these players with speed and with ability around him, so they basically can just drop back and find those guys. Now, they haven't neglected the running game since Kareem Hunt got suspended. They basically had to cut him. They basically didn't have a choice in that situation, and they made the right move in releasing him. But it's gone basically full passing game at this point in time, and they're still supporting that right now. I don't personally like going full passing game. I like having the running back there just in case, but I think they have done a good job developing the offense.
Yeah, and I think the thing that stands out is the Kansas City Chiefs over the last 30 years really was a team that was full of starting quarterbacks that were reclamation projects, mid-round picks, unremarkable veterans, even though, Joe Montana still has some Joe Montana moments in Kansas City. But the last time that they had drafted a quarterback in the first round was actually in the opening round of 1983 when they picked up Todd Blackledge, who ended up being a bust. So really with the Kansas City Chiefs, if you look at their quarterback position, other than a few years with Joe Montana, let's look at it even farther back, like you go late 80s, early 90s, it was Steve DeBerg, who was like 78 years old, and he got him to the playoffs. So this is a team that really, the last really good quarterback they had was probably Bill Kenny in the early 80s, mid-80s, and before that, Lynn Dawson. So this is a team that, quarterback-wise, has had issues where they've just had a bunch of guys. And Mahomes, what they gave up for him, I think, they traded a number 27 pick, a third-rounder, and a 2018 first-round selection to the Bills. And when you look at it in hindsight, it was a risky pick. And I think the reason Mahomes didn't play right away is because nobody thought Mahomes could play right away. Mahomes had some issues with mechanics, and he's got a private coach by the name of Jeff Christensen who spent a little bit of time with the Bengals in the 80s. And Jeff is also, this is the thing that's amazing, Jeff's also the quarterback's coach for Jimmy Garoppolo. He's the private coach for both of them. And with Mahomes, he really turned him around. And with Mahomes at Texas Tech, the knock on him was he had a big arm, but he always overthrew his receivers. So I think Andy Reid eliminated that by finding him the 3 fastest receivers he possibly could.
Yeah. Yeah, like you said, they really did a good job building a system around him because in college he was throwing the ball left and right. He hadn't had one game where he threw like 9 touchdowns or something like that, or he had one ridiculous game where it was like 500 yards, maybe it was 6 touchdowns. He had those moments in college. But like we said, all his college quarterbacks don't transition well to the NFL sometimes. And
especially Texas Tech
really, well, yeah, especially those guys who come from that style offense. They don't transition into the NFL and pick up the ball right away and are great. A lot of times they end up out of the league after a couple of years. But Mahomes, like you said, came and worked on his game. And I do think there's some value to bringing in a rookie and giving him some time to sit and watch behind a professional and develop a little bit at the professional level before throwing him out onto the field. I think you can actually hurt a quarterback's chances of succeeding by throwing him out the rookie year. And a lot of times that happens because coaches feel pressure for their jobs and they prioritize their own job.
If I'm drafting a guy in the first round, I'm putting him in right away. I just am.
I will say,
you don't learn anything from sitting and watching. You really don't.
You don't think
because this is the thing. I could sit there and we could spend 8 hours a day in training camp, and I'd teach you how to read a defense. But until you actually read that defense in a live game, I don't know what you've got. Just sitting there, to me, doesn't do anything. And I think that's the way this was always done in like the 70s and 80s predominantly. But when you look at guys like Ben Roethlisberger, I mean, the majority of guys that are studs now, Russell Wilson started right away, right?
That's true. He beat out Matt Flynn.
Drew Brees, didn't he start right away at San Diego? And in Rivers
I think he did.
All right,
Rivers sat for a year.
Yeah, Roethlisberger started right away. Andy Dalton started right away. Dak Prescott started right away. How many guys were brought in as number 1 picks over the last 15, 20 years that sat for a year and then played? I don't think you see that near as much as you used to. And I really don't think standing there holding a clipboard really does anything for you. I think the Bengals brought Carson Palmer in 2003 and sat him for a year behind John Kitna, and they went 8-8. I think it's fully plausible that if, Carson Palmer starts, maybe you get an extra win or two and make the playoffs. And I just think if you are a special quarterback, there's not many guys that are all-time legends that it takes 3 or 4 years. I mean, you got guys like Joe Montana or Tom Brady that nobody expected to be great. So, yeah, they started off as backups. But Tom Brady, as soon as he got a chance, you knew he was the guy. Joe Montana, as soon as he got a chance, you knew he was the guy. John Elway started right away. He got benched from time to time the first year, and they put Steve DeBerg in. But the greatest quarterbacks that ever lived, Peyton Manning threw way more interceptions and touchdowns his first year. It didn't destroy him. And Ryan Leaf, it doesn't matter if you start him right away or wait 10 years. He's never going to get it mentally. So I think a quarterback, the toughness and the mentality are the biggest things. And you may have some guys that wait 2 or 3 years and pull that off, but they're usually guys that had issues with their mechanics. I think if you have a quarterback that's mechanically sound, you might as well put him in and let him learn how to play the game.
Yeah, I can say that's fair. I can see that. But what do you do? My question: what do you do a guy like Josh Rosen, who shouldn't have gone like when he did in the draft in 2018? But what do you do with a guy like Josh Rosen, who goes early in the draft, who has plenty of issues by himself? What do you do with a quarterback like that?
You don't pick him, because if you do, you're stupid. I don't care how long Josh Rosen sits; he's going to suck.
Yeah,
doesn't matter if he plays right away or if you sit him for 75 years, he's still going to suck. Mitch Trubisky, doesn't matter. He's still going to suck. Because you know why? Because he sucks.
He's a bad quarterback?
Yeah, he just sucks. I mean, Jared
All right.
Goff has limitations. I mean, guys with limitations have limitations. Guys without limitations, you might as well throw them in because they're going to figure it out pretty quick.
Right. They're going to pick you up, and you're going to see that spark.
Yeah, why do I want to piss a whole year away with John Kitna when I could run Carson Palmer in there and see what happens? Because the thing is this, with guys like John Kitna and Ryan Fitzpatrick, they're good quarterbacks, but the ceiling for them is like 8-8, 9-7 at best. So throw your guy in.
Yeah, so
I mean, do you think Kyler Murray was ruined by being thrown in right away this year?
No, I don't think so for Kyler Murray.
No. I mean, so who do you think was ruined over the last 5 or 6 years by being thrown in right away?
I don't know. I was just wondering if there was an opportunity for someone else to turn out different. Because there's been busts like, but obviously you're going to say you guys just suck anyways. They weren't going to figure it out. But I was thinking.
No, I've seen guys before that I think if you would have let them sit, maybe would have figured it out because I don't think they were mature enough when they got to the NFL. I think Josh Rosen, I don't think he's ever been mature. He was a dude that grew up with a silver spoon in his mouth. He's always been gifted everything. And usually that doesn't work out that well in any sport, except for tennis, because they're all like that.
Tennis, maybe golf.
Yeah, and the thing is this, Josh Rosen was a big-time tennis player too. So see, that even proves my point even more. So, like Baker Mayfield, I said it at the start of last year, he should have been the starter for the Browns. And if they would have started him, maybe they win an extra game and they make the playoffs. Now, I think Baker Mayfield has regressed, but that's not because of anything that's happened on the field, I don't think. I think Baker Mayfield's regressed because of distractions off the field, whether it's his own team or, how many. I mean, he's done more commercials than he's thrown for touchdown passes so far.
Yeah, his commercials are the best tape you put up this year.
And they suck.
That tells you a lot.
Yeah. And, I mean, I think Baker Mayfield could turn out to be all right. But Baker Mayfield, I think, will fail or is going to fail because of the guys they're putting in charge.
Well, yeah, we've talked about the Browns before. It's just what they do. It's just their organization. They like to micromanage coaches. They don't give them any free space. So no coach who's good will want to go to Cleveland because they know they can do better. So
yeah,
to ensure mediocrity.
When you look at these quarterbacks, the ones that usually fail if they play right away are the guys that in their first 5 years have like 4 different offensive coordinators.
Yeah, you switch it around on them too much.
Yeah. So when you look at the way the Chiefs were built, I think the thing that really stands out to me is the way they let go of guys like Justin Houston, Derrick Johnson, and Eric Berry, and were able to actually fill those spots with players that were just as good, if not better.
Yeah, because we talked about this. We talked about the safety, Juan Thornhill, who they got in the draft. And they picked up Tyler Matthews for agency, and he's a first-team All-Pro this year. And then they got Frank Clark at defensive end. So they basically took a bunch of guys who were like at that kind of like Pro Bowl level, even though I hate using the term Pro Bowl, but they were at that level, or they used to be at the level, and they got rid of them. We've talked about this with New England before. You get rid of the veteran guys before it becomes too big of a deal. You replace them, and then you move on. You continue winning games. And that's kind of what Kansas City did in this case by bringing in Frank Clark and Tyler Matthew and drafting Juan Thornhill. They basically retooled their defense.
Well, they had to retool it because they brought Steve Spagnuolo in. And when Spagnuolo came in as the coordinator, they went from playing a 3-4 to a 4-3, which precipitated a trade of Dee Ford, who was sent to the 49ers. They got Frank Clark, who was acquired from the Seattle Seahawks. And finally, I think the big one was they spent big in free agency to get do-it-all safety Tyrone Matthew.
Yeah, I've raved about Tyron Matthew before. He's one of my favorite players in the NFL. But he's a guy who can play safety for you. He's got great instincts. He can come up and play some man coverage. He's got that ability. He's got the speed, versatility. And he can hit, too. He can hit players. He's not afraid to tackle, and he is always around the ball. So for me, finding him, especially because your secondary is either young or it's unimpressive usually if you're Kansas City right now. So finding a guy like Tyrann Mathieu who can kind of anchor that back end of the defense was a very solid move in my opinion.
Well, you got to have a guy like Matthew when you switch from a 3-4 to a 4-3 because a lot of times you'll have to bring him up a little. He's going to have to come up in the box and make a tackle. And, that's kind of what I worry about when they play this 49ers team is I think that are they going to have to sell out to stop the run? And by sell out, I mean bring Matthew up into the box. Because if they do, that's going to give them coverage issues on the play action stuff.
Well, yeah, because you move Tyrann Mathieu up, and even like we've talked about the guys in the secondary before, their cornerbacks are Kendall Fuller and Rashad Breeland and Charvarius Ward and Morris Claiborne. And you don't have a guy in Juan Thornhill right now because he's on IR, so Daniel Sorensen's the guy. When we talk about him, he's a thumper, but that means his hips are probably a little tight. He's not going to be able to turn and run as much in coverage. So once you get that play action for the 49ers, you draw someone like Matthew up, suddenly, you got Deebo Samuel or Emmanuel Sanders can leak out and just run the field on your guys. So I feel like having that running game, which the Chiefs don't have, having that running game and then having the offensive line and the blocking team they have in front gives the 49ers a huge advantage over Kansas City's defense.
Yeah, and when you look at the Chiefs and the speed, I mean, Merkel Hardman, who they brought in this year, is just basically a return man right now, but he can make plays. Sammy Watkins, I think it's safe to fail that really he's failed to live up to the enormous free agent contract he signed in 2018, though. I mean, he makes a play occasionally, but...
No, Sammy Watkins is a guy who can completely disappear from games and not even factor in at the end. So for me, I don't know, even when they signed him to that deal, I was really surprised because he hadn't been an impact player since his first or second year in the league. And that was when Buffalo was just forced to feeding him the ball. So I was really surprised when they signed him to that big contract. But he did come out against Tennessee in the AFC Championship and catch 7 passes for 114 yards and a touchdown. So he's capable of having a big game, which I think is the factor here. He doesn't need to have a big one. He just needs to be a threat right now. And maybe they deploy him outside, and then you can find Travis Kelce or Tyreek Hill somewhere else.
Yeah, and you've got him. You've got Damian Williams at running back who fits the offense because he's fast. They don't use him that much, but he is productive when they do use him. I think the sad thing here is this, though. If Kareem Hunt could have kept everything straight, I think with Kareem Hunt, they probably won the Super Bowl last year, and they probably would have won it this year.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. I thought they were going to make it to the Super Bowl last year with the pace they were going on. And you've got Kareem Hunt and Tyreek Hill and Patrick Mahomes. So you have everything you need there to win a Super Bowl. And then Kareem Hunt, like we've talked about before, he goes out, he makes dumb decisions. And tape did appear. Tape was from earlier in the year. But basically, it ruined Kansas City's season because even though they made it to the AFC Championship game, they had so much more potential than that. They definitely could have beat the Patriots because it went to overtime as it was. So imagine if they had Kareem Hunt in there to control the clock a little bit and keep Brady off the field a little bit more. It could have been a totally different game. And the year could have gone entirely different for them.
Yeah, and the stat that sticks out the most to me about Tyreek Hill, 17 touchdowns and 50-plus yards has entered the NFL in 2016. No other player even has 10. I mean, second place there is Derrick Henry with 9, and he's a running back.
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous when you watch him play. I mean, he makes fast guys look slow. Like, we've seen plays where I think there was a big catch by a receiver for the Chiefs who broke out and was running.
Oh, yeah, and he ran in front of him to block for him? Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, he runs him down basically, and this is like, the guy who he's blocking for is like a huge sprinter from the college and all that stuff, and he'll just run them down so easily. So it's crazy just watching how fast he is.
All right. Anything else we want to talk about today?
I mean, that was awfully quick. We can do more. We got to get something more out of that.
Well, what do you want?
But I think –
keep it going.
Yeah, we'll figure I'll roll with it. But I do want to say the one guy I think could be a huge factor for the Kansas City defense and their entire team in general this game is going to be Chris Jones, their defensive tackle. Because Chris Jones, in my opinion, even though I really love Tyrann Mathieu, I think Chris Jones is probably the best defensive player on the Chiefs right now. He was limited against the Titans in the AFC Championship game because of an injury, and they fully expect him to play in the Super Bowl. I just hope he plays the entire game because he only played about 42% of the snaps in the AFC Championship game. But when he's on the field, he's a monster. He's better, in my opinion, than DeForest Buckner on the 49ers. I think Buckner is very good. But over the last 2 years, Chris Jones, 24.5 sacks and 49 quarterback hits. and that's in just 23 starts. So I think he's an incredibly valuable player for Kansas City, especially like with someone we talked about, the offensive line of San Francisco and their ability to run the ball. I think.
Yeah, but Chris Jones is
really
not good against stopping the run.
No, he's more of a pass rusher guy, but I still think some of the disruption could be important. But let's be real. He's their only major guy, besides me and Frank Clark. He's the only major guy, I believe, who's in the box right now for the Chiefs, who could actually make an impact on the run. And even Frank Clark. Frank Clark's more of a pass rusher as well, because I covered him when he was in Seattle.
Yeah, and see, this is my problem with this. This is the thing, though. If you're more of a pass rusher, you tend to be what? More aggressive?
Yeah, you over-pursue?
Yeah, you can't do that against a team that zone blocks the way the 49ers do. And they're just going to use that against them. See, that's my problem is also this. You can have two great defensive linemen, but you better have one or two more, too, to stop this because they're going to find the guy this week.
Yeah, and that's probably going to be on the left side of the line. And they'll probably – because I can't even say the guy's name. I can't even pronounce it right. I'm not going to try. But opposite Frank Clark is probably where they're going to end up running the ball and trying to run through that area. And it would be a huge – I guess we could see how the Chiefs adjusted because they know what's going to happen. They just got to try to stop it. I don't know if they can. But we'll see how they adjust and try go into the game and try to slow down San Francisco's running game.
All right, we got 3 San Francisco starters that were limited on Wednesday. Quan Alexander, linebacker, pectoral muscle, running back Tevin Coleman, shoulder, and safety Jaquiski Tart, whose ribs are a problem. For the Chiefs, defensive tackle Chris Jones still having issues with his calf. Tight end Travis Kelce, knee. Center Austin Ryder, wrist. And tight end Dion Yelder, Achilles. They were all full participants, though, on Wednesday. Defensive end, this is the guy you can't say, Tanu Kapase. I can't say it either. He's out right now. He didn't practice. McCurl Hardman, with a back injury, did not practice. Morris Claiborne was not included in the injury report. So Kelce missed time during last week's practices. And he's yet to miss a game this season. But how big a deal do you think this injury is?
Well, I don't know. We all know they're going to rest these guys before the Super Bowl, and they're going to try to get them as healthy as possible. And even if they're still feeling it, they're going to play because it's the last game of the season. It's just how it is. They're going to play. But if he's not 100%, this is a very big deal, I think, for Kansas City because even though they have that speed on the outside, if you somehow find a way to take out that speed factor and get rid of the guys who can go over the top, Kelce really is your security blanket. I mean, he's the guy who
Kelce
really
limits what you can do on coverage because you have to account for him almost first, even before Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, I would say he's actually probably the bigger target before Tyreek Hill. He's the guy who you really run everything off of, in my opinion, if you're Kansas City. So if he's not 100%, I mean, that's a huge blow for their offense because it limits what you can do in terms of your creativity.
Yeah, and I'll tell you another one. San Francisco, Tevin Coleman, I think is a big deal too. He's got the dislocated right shoulder. I know Raheem Mostert has been a bad dude, and they've got running backs all over the place there. But Tevin Coleman gives you a lot in a passing game, and I think Coleman's a big deal too here. He says he's optimistic about playing, but they're not really saying what the chances are.
Well, yeah, and we know players want to play. So players are going to say, I want to play. They're going to try to get on the field. And even if he does play, that doesn't necessarily mean that he's healthy enough to make a huge impact. So if you're not 100%, even in a game like the Super Bowl, if you're really hurt, you're going to have to sometimes – you're going to struggle a little bit getting through some stuff. But you're right. He's a guy who's a huge impact factor for them, both in the pass game as in the running game. So if they don't have him, that also limits what you can do on offense. But we've talked about before, they have so many running backs, Matt Breida, Raheem Mostert, that maybe I think they can cover for him, but they would definitely prefer to have him on the field.
All right. Anything else, Sam? We have made it to 30 minutes.
Hey, look at that. All right, I'm good now. We got everything, I think.
All right. I want to remind everybody tomorrow at 1 o'clock live Eastern, Anthony Cervino will be back as long as they're done at the doctor's. Let's see where I come from. That could take a while. So we'll see. If you go to High Point Health in Lawrenceburg, Indiana, you'll go there. but you may not come back out. All right, guys. They're not going to be a sponsor, are they? Tomorrow at 1 o'clock, our Super Bowl 54 preview show with former San Francisco 49er offensive lineman Randy Cross, CBS sports analyst Randy Cross. With the four of us tomorrow, we will give you our game predictions. Anthony will miss badly. I will be right, and we'll go from there. I wanted to bring up for Anthony, if he's listening today at the doctor, the Jets beat the Cowboys. Sam, tell everybody where they can find you.
Yeah, you guys can find me on Twitter at Sam_Teets33. Post plenty of articles and stats all the time. I love to have good sports conversations. Love to argue a little bit with you guys. It'll be awesome. You can go and check that out.
All right, guys, and you can follow me at Grueling Truth. You can hear our podcast wherever you find sports podcasts. So, for now, for Sam Teets, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.